In a bustling trading town along the old coastal highway, where cargo ships docked daily and merchants shouted prices from dawn till dusk, there lived a businessman named Thomas Reed. He was in his prime, wealthy beyond what most could imagine, yet always chasing more. His house stood grand on the hill overlooking the harbor, a sprawling place of dark wood and tall windows, its rooms lined with locked cabinets and heavy oak chests. Inside them lay bolts of imported silk, crates of rare spices, barrels of fine wine, stacks of gold coins and jewels that caught the lamplight like captured stars. Every chest was full, except one. The largest chest, carved from polished mahogany and bound with brass, stood empty in the center of his private study. Thomas had commissioned it years earlier, telling the cabinet maker, "Build it sturdy enough to hold the fortune that's still coming." He left the lid open, waiting. Friends who visited would chuckle. "Tom," they'd say, "you've got more than any man could spend in 10 lifetimes. Why keep an empty box staring at you?" He would only give a tight smile and reply, "Because one day it will hold something no other chest can carry." As time went on, Thomas's hunger sharpened. He sent ships farther across the oceans, drove harder bargains, loaned money at rates that ruined smaller traders. He had married a kind woman named Emily, who loved him steadily and gave him 2 sons. Yet even as the boys grew into bright, curious young men, Thomas's gaze kept returning to the empty chest. Late at night, he would stand before it, tracing the grain of the wood with his fingers, picturing the day it would finally be filled. Perhaps with a single flawless diamond, or shares in a shipping line that spanned the globe, or gold enough to buy influence in every port. Emily watched this quiet obsession with growing sadness. One evening, after the lamps were turned low and the boys were asleep, she spoke. "Tom, you filled our home with beautiful things. Why does your heart still look into that empty space?" Thomas turned, caught off guard by the gentleness in her voice. "Because I haven't found the real treasure yet," he said. "All this silk, these spices, they're just placeholders. When that chest is full at last, I'll be satisfied." Emily said nothing more that night, but the next morning she rose early. She took the small brass key from her ring, the one that opened the study no one else entered, and slipped inside. For hours, she worked in silence. When Thomas returned from the docks at midday, he found the front doors wide open. The household staff stood quietly in the hall. Emily waited beside the open study door, her expression calm. Thomas stepped inside. The empty chest was empty no longer. Inside lay folded bolts of his own finest silk, strands of pearls, small jars of saffron, silver ingots, a handful of gold coins, items he recognized from his own warehouses. Yet they covered only the bottom third of the chest, leaving most of it still bare and shadowed. He looked at Emily, puzzled. "What have you done?" She answered softly. "I carried in everything I could manage from your collections without anyone noticing. I wanted you to see it." "See what?" His tone edged sharper. "That even when you pour your entire fortune into one place, the chest stays mostly empty. There will always be room for more. More silk you could import. More gold you could lend. More ships you could send. The chest will never be full, Thomas, because the hunger isn't in the wood. It's in you." He stared at the half-filled chest. For the first time, he noticed how small the treasures looked against the vast, dark interior, how the lamplight barely reached the corners. A chill settled in his chest. Emily stepped closer. "Our sons are laughing outside right now. Neighbors still wave when you pass. I still wake up beside you every morning." Those things don't fit inside any chest. They can't be measured or locked away. Yet they are the only wealth that doesn't leave you wanting more. Thomas closed the lid slowly. The brass latch clicked like the end of a long sentence. He turned to his wife. I thought the treasure I was waiting for would come from somewhere else. From a distant port, a lucky deal. I never realized it was already here, and that I was the one pushing it away. Emily took his hand. The chest is yours to fill or to leave as it is, but don't let it become a tomb for the life you already have. That evening, Thomas did not return to the docks. Instead, he sat in the garden with his sons, listening to their stories of school and friends. He ate the simple supper Emily had prepared. Later, when the house grew quiet, he walked alone to the study. He did not open the chest. He stood before it for a long time, then turned away and locked the door behind him. From that season forward, Thomas changed. He still traded, but his deals grew fairer. He forgave loans owed by men who could never repay. He spent evenings teaching his sons the maps of the shipping routes, not so they could conquer the world, but so they could always find their way home. The empty chest remained in the study, untouched. When visitors asked about it, Thomas would smile and say, "It's a reminder. The best treasure leaves no room for emptiness because it isn't kept in boxes." Years later, when Thomas grew old and his hair turned silver gray, he called his sons to his bedside. He gave each of them a small brass key. One opens the warehouses, he told them. The other opens the study with the chest. Use the first as you need to, but open the second only when you feel that hunger rising inside you. Look at what is already there, and remember, the chest that stays half empty is not a failure. It is grace. It leaves space for what truly matters. He passed away peacefully one spring morning. The sons buried him beneath the old oak in the garden. They kept both keys on separate chains and never spoke of the chest to anyone outside the family. The old house still stands overlooking the harbor. Travelers pass it on their way to the docks. They see the tall windows, the carved doors, the quiet garden. And on still evenings, some say they hear the faint sound of a lid being closed. Softly, deliberately, as though someone inside has finally decided that enough is enough.